toxic masculinity.
What are you laughing at?
Jill Biden attempts to speak Spanish and fails miserably.
Yeah.
There is video of it. I want to see it.
I shouldn't criticize people for speaking poorly because I do not read particularly well either. But you'd
Me
think...
too.
Yeah.
Look at me. I'm like misspelling
Yeah,
stuff.
but you'd think that if you had to say one specific thing in a foreign language, you'd have practiced that or asked somebody how to pronounce it before you get on stage and say this, right? So she's trying to say the term si se puede. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not even sure. Si se puede. Si se puede is this expression that they had amongst this particular union. So she was speaking in front of this flag, right, that is essentially a Nazi
Looks
flag.
like yeah.
No. This was actually copied. This union copied the flag from the Nazis and put this sort of like simplified version of an eagle on it, as opposed to the swastika, because the guy Cesar Chavez, who ran this union, he studied like dictators and stuff like that, and he tried to emulate them because he was like a cult leader. I have a whole video on Cesar Chavez. You guys should watch it on Mr. Reagan. It's amazing. This guy was essentially a cult leader. He actually was friends with a real cult leader, and he was trying to turn his basically Mexican union of farm workers into a cult in which he was the head cult leader, and they all just like obeyed him. And he did this like weird stuff where he would make people. This was from this originally from a cult called what was it called? Something Anon, like Alcoholics Anonymous, but this was like
QAnon?
QAnon, yeah. No, it was I don't remember, something else, Al-Anon or something like that, something with an A, I think. God, why can't I remember the name of this cult? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So this cultist in California was he had this weird technique, and it was adopted by this Cesar Chavez guy. And the technique was you would basically break people down psychologically. You would put them in the middle of a room, and you would have all the other cult members around. I've told you about this, right?
Yeah.
You'd have all the other cult members around, and they start swearing at you and calling you nothing and calling you useless and worthless. Well, actually, no. It starts with you telling like your life story. You're like telling a story about your life, telling about your childhood, something like that, or your life story. And then they start basically berating you and calling you like useless and worthless and nothing. And they cut you down until you're crying, until you're completely just like you cannot stand up for yourself anymore. You've just been completely defeated by them verbally. And then so they sort of like traumatize you, emotionally traumatize you. And this is back in like the 60s when people weren't necessarily psychologically prepared for this kind of thing. I think now we're a lot more cynical. But in the 60s, I think people were a little bit more innocent and more vulnerable to this kind of thing. And they would just like abuse them emotionally. And then once they were done with that, then they would welcome them back into the group. They would all hug them and say, "You're safe with us," and all this kind of stuff, right? Yeah, it was this weird, it was a way of brainwashing people into thinking that this is the only place that would accept you because you're a worthless piece of garbage, but we accept you anyway and we love you anyway kind of thing. It was a weird cult technique to get people into the cult and to be just like totally obedient and obsessed with this cult. And this guy, Cesar Chavez, was like, "Oh, I like this. This is what I'm going to use." Okay, she's fixing her lighting again. This is good. I think you've only gotten up 16 times today to fix this stuff.
I think like 12.
Okay, so this guy, Cesar Chavez, was essentially a cult leader, right? Essentially a cult leader. But he's praised by some Mexicans in the Mexican community as like this great man that helped them out. I don't think so. I think that he was basically a creep. But here we go. Jill Biden attempts to speak Spanish, fails miserably. Now, one of the expressions they had in this cult was "si se puede," which translates roughly to "yes, we can," right? And where did we hear that phrase? This was Obama's catchphrase, right? "Yes, we can." He got that from Cesar Chavez, right? Obama did. So a lot of this stuff is sort of interconnected. But not only does she mispronounce this, she actually mistranslates it. But anyway, let's go ahead and listen to Jill Biden mess this up because it's pretty funny.
So say it with me. Si se puede. The future is ours. Thank you.
All right, so that was a pretty quick one, but yeah. Say it with me. Si se puede. The future is ours. Si se puede. Okay.
It's not the correct translation.
No, it's not. It's not. Si se puede is I think how you're supposed to pronounce it. And then the translation is yes we can, not the future is ours. She messed up twice, but it's a little bit of a cringy moment. It's a little bit of a cringy moment, but this is what happens to Democrats all the time. Have you ever heard Democrats? Valeria's probably not used to this, but Democrats often try to speak Spanish to like Mexican audiences or Hispanic audiences to try to like gain favor with them, and they always butcher it. Even like people who do speak Spanish sometimes butcher it when they're trying to speak Spanish to Spanish. Just stop trying to speak Spanish to the audience. Like if I'm going to speak Spanish, I'm going to say something like when I said si se puede, I'm not really sure how that's pronounced. I said afterwards, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Have a little bit of humility, right? They come up with this like idea like, oh, I'm cool like you guys. Look, I can say my Spanish, mi amigos. It's just so tacky and just makes them look so stupid. Like if I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna say, look, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis.
I know what's that.
I counted to 6.
I know.
Okay. But like, I'm going to say, look, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. She could at least have said that to start out with. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but si se, what did she say? Puede.
I don't know.
I don't know. It was weird. What did she say? Puadwe. Yeah, si se puadwe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but si se puadwe. You sound stupid, but at least you acknowledge that I'm probably going to sound stupid saying this, and so at least you can, kind of get away with it. Joe Biden was ridiculed on Wednesday for attempting to speak Spanish that many found confusing and laughable. Footage of the foreign language fail drew further attention to a controversial-looking flag that was behind Biden as she spoke. Biden made the remarks during an event. See, the thing is, this flag has been around for a long time. I didn't actually know that it was based on a Nazi flag until this whole thing happened. And then it came out that Cesar Chavez specifically had designed this to look like a Nazi flag because he thought that was a way that people would be inspired. See, it's like breaking people down psychologically to get them, convicted into the cult. This was another way of him convicting people into the cult. He was like, "Oh, Hitler found great success with this flag, so I could find great success with this flag." Mm-hmm. It was all about conditioning people. He was a cult leader. He was a failed cult leader because he was actually pushed out of his own organization eventually because he kept on trying to push all these cult things, and everybody else in the organization that was at the top tier was like, dude, you got to stop doing this weird cult stuff. Like, stop doing it. Like, you're freaking everybody out. It's weird. It's unacceptable. Like the thing where he was like abusing people. Like his wife obviously refused to participate in it naturally. And a lot of the people at the top tier were like, no, we're not doing this. This is weird. He had like a compound, like a cult compound with like guards with guns and stuff like that. And when you were in the compound, he forced you to garden. Like you had to garden as part of the cult exercise. And he made you wear...
It's not a bad exercise.
No, it's not a bad thing to do, but it's a bad thing to force people to do. I think that people, it's like, it's part of the cultist thing.
Well,
right?
My grandma used to force me to garden.
In a family, I think it's different. A family is like a cult that's acceptable. Like you should be in the cult of your own personal family, I think, hopefully. You should have some degree of loyalty to your own family, sure. And that is, I think, actually how cults are made, is that if you don't have a good family life and, you don't feel like you belong to a family, a cult is a very attractive thing because it's like a family that's outside your family, right? Biden made the remarks during an event addressing farm workers on the birthday of Cesar Chavez, a left-wing activist who had a fertile history of condemning immigrants and making other bigoted remarks. Yeah. This is the funny thing about Cesar Chavez. So obviously Biden has put a bust of Cesar Chavez behind him in the Oval Office. And he's done that because he wants to say to Hispanics, I like Hispanics. I'm pro-Hispanic. And he's anti-wall, he's pro-illegal immigration, all this kind of stuff. But the thing is, Cesar Chavez was super anti-immigration. Yeah. Like he would actually send his union laborers to the border to physically attack anybody crossing the border because he knew illegal immigrants would come and they would reduce the
take
wages
jobs.
of the people who already
I think
have the
all
jobs.
of these legal Hispanics that are here right now need to go to the border and beat the.
Yeah, yeah.
Because those guys
That
are
was a
gonna be-
joke, YouTube. Valera wasn't actually suggesting that.
Of
That's
course
pretty
I'm
funny.
not.
Hilarious stuff. Okay, let's see here. It's si se puede, yes, you, or / we can, not si se puede. Republican Governor Association Deputy Communication Director Joanna Rodriguez, who is fluent in Spanish, said, she also said, I can't even imagine what word she was trying to say. Seriously, why even try to pander when you're just going to butcher it and not practice before? Yeah, that was my point. Why didn't she practice it? Why didn't she ask somebody, how do you pronounce this? And then practice saying it. I don't know. Anyway, it's a little bit of a silly story. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I thought it was a little bit funny. I thought I wanted to cover it. But anyway,
No, it's funny. It's hilarious. I like the story.
it is funny, right? All right, darling. Do you want to read the title of the next article?
Yeah. Protesters randomly harass outdoor diners at New York City restaurant.
Yeah, this is pretty messed
Again?
up. Well, that's the thing. That's the reason I kind of wanted to cover this. It's like, I thought we were over this. I thought we were over this.
No.
Toxic Masculinity. Weekdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.